let's just plunge into it. All right, so Arya II, Arya II in a storm of swords, still on the run from through the Riverlands in the company of Gendry and Hot Pie, and with possibly some elements from the Bloody Mummers on their tail, under orders from Roose Bolton, which I wouldn't recommend. Although they might have stopped pursuing them after Nymeria gave them a piece of her mind, while Arya was in Nymeria's mind. Because we now know that Arya can now warg with Nymeria, her long-lost direwolf, who apparently is still roaming around these parts, leading her own pack. And I guess that the warging can still take place as long as there's a relatively short distance between the kid and the direwolf. I'm still a bit fuzzy on the working principles of this warging business. So at the beginning of this chapter, we find her plucking carrots in some guy's garden. That's all right. The man won't complain because he's dead. Yeah, well, these are the Riverlands. If you happen to have a map handy, northwest of Harrenhal somewhere, dear listener, and massive battles have been fought in these parts. So yeah, the guy is dead. The owner of that garden, legitimate proprietor. Anyway, so this is when Arya hears one of the most unlikely things around there. She hears someone singing. I mean, I say unlikely because really it's not like there's a lot of singing around here. Tragedy, destruction, war, and whatnot. It doesn't exactly put people in the mood. So also we're given a sort of a weird vibe by that song that Arya hears, because the lyrics, if you pay attention to the lyrics, they seem to be about a passionate love affair, not entirely consensual, unless I'm overthinking the words, "I'll steal a kiss with the point of my blade." So there you go. So the song is getting closer and closer, and Hot Pie, never one to shy away from stating the obvious, he goes, "Someone's coming." Huh. So now Arya's thinking, maybe I can just kill this dude, I suppose, as your average well-adjusted 9-year-old girl would think. And we're reminded that she now has a proper adult sword type thing with her stolen, along with like a dagger that she stole directly from the Lord of the Manor, Mr. Bolton himself. But she also has an adult sword, which is a bit too heavy and big for her, but she no longer has Needle, her trusty little sword, more like a letter opener that John gave her way back. She doesn't have it anymore because it was confiscated by one of Gregor Clegane's men, some guy named Polliver. And Gendry too had his helmet, his bull helmet, taken away from him. The bull helmet he was so fond of that he kept polishing and tweaking and adjusting, whatever you do with bull helmets. And it was taken by one of the Mountain's men. In fact, the last time we saw that helmet was when Tywin Lannister's army was leaving Harrenhal in Arya VIII, A Clash of Kings, and it was worn by Polliver again. Tut tut tut, Polly, you shouldn't take things that don't belong to you. To have a sip of coffee. Oh. A word from our sponsor, caffeine. It does things to you. So now Arya, as she hears this singing stranger getting closer and closer, she does something interesting. She prays to the old gods. I say it's interesting because back in Clash of Kings, Arya 9, she wants to pray, but she doesn't. It's there on the page. She doesn't quite know how to, which at the time made me go into one of my ruminations. Like, does that mean that the old gods, the whole communion prayers, communication with the gods, is it more like an adult affair in that culture? That's what I thought at first. Or maybe was it because Arya was never one to, sit still and pay attention whenever Ned said, "Okay, look, this is how it's done," and she was like, well, like expectedly, like kids behave. She was more like, yeah, whatever. Because well, Sansa is shown to pray in the God's Wood in King's Landing. Of course, we know that. But for Sansa, this might be more like a rejection of the dominant faith in the city. Now that she has come to realize what King's Landing is all about, she's disgusted by the city that holds her prisoner, the city that executed her father, and it could be, it's never explicitly stated, but it could be that she has come to reject the faith of the Seven, even though she was probably indoctrinated to it by her mother. But then again, how often do we see Sansa think about her mother in her POV chapters? It could be that she has instead decided to actively embrace her father's faith after he was executed by Joffrey. But now Arya is seen praying to the tree gods as she addresses them. So now I don't know anymore. If you have any insights, dear listener, feel free to share. Oh, it just occurred to me that sorry, where are my manners? I didn't even welcome you here. Hello, make yourself at home. Good to see you here, virtually see you. So she prays, and she prays as you do, asking for stuff, as one does. So stuff like please make him go away, don't let him see us, blah, blah, blah. And right on cue, the gods make the singer immediately realize that there's someone hiding behind that garden wall. Because she overhears them talking to each other. Oh, look, there's someone. Did you hear? Right, yeah. So that means that it's not just one singer, there's more than one person there. And so she hears them planning to fire a few arrows in her direction. So she springs out and goes, okay, all right, hands up, all right, you win, don't shoot, I'm here. So she takes a good look at them. It's actually three of them. The singer with the wood harp, but also equipped with throwing knives. It's kind of like a circus guy, isn't it? As well as a woodman's axe. Then there's this huge fella wearing a yellow cloak, which gives him a sort of appearance a la Big Bird, from Sesame Street. And he's got a long sword. And then the dude they call Archer, the one who was going to fire a few arrows in Arya's direction, and they call him Archer with a good reason, because he's got bow and arrows, and he's ready to fire a few of those arrows. So the singer goes, look, boy, put down the sword, or Angai here. That's the archer's name, yeah? Angai. Unless you want to pronounce it sort of like French, start Ongi. Would you like that? Do you like that? Does that? No? No. All right. Yeah, let's have a vote. Is it Angai? Angai sounds a bit banal, doesn't it? But Ongi, on the other hand, how delightfully continental. So anyway, put down the sword, or Angai here is going to put a few shafts through you, which is almost always painful, I assure you. and Arya, goes through the usual routine. Okay, dude. First of all, I'm not a boy. Yeah, this is a classical example of show don't tell. Show don't tell. George R. R. Martin doesn't need to describe Arya. She looked like a boy. Every single person who meets her mistakes her for a boy. So that's all you need to know. That look, all these people can't be wrong. Clearly, there's something in her appearance, and we know that Yoren sort of fixed her hair, gave her a makeover to make her look like a boy, but removed all her makeup and whatnot. But some time must have elapsed in the meantime. I don't know exactly how long, but hair does grow in the meantime. I don't know. Did she regularly go to the hairdresser? Look, I want you to make me look like a boy, so I can always deny that I'm a boy. Ha! There's a bit of an enigma for you. Look, first of all, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl. Yeah, and second, you just keep walking. Yeah, and maybe I won't kill a lot of you. Oh, they go. Oh, that's adorable. Did you hear that? She won't kill us. Now, come along. We'll take you to the pub round the corner where you can grab a bite. Yeah? They don't sound very menacing, these three guys. Of course, they are armed, and, they could cause her some physical, pain if they wanted to, just by firing arrows at her. But I think they sound friendly enough. And it's at that point that Gendry and Hot Pie also spring out, swords in hand, ready for action. Gendry looking all mean, and Hot Pie looking like Hot Pie. And he even introduces himself. Hello, my name is Pie. Hot Pie. Sort of, yeah? All right, yes, Hot Pie. That's nice. What are your friends called? Squab and Mutton Chop, respectively? Oh, you guys all together constitute what I call a proper square meal. Gendry is not amused and demands to know those fellas' names. Turns out that apart from Angai, the singer, Angai is the archer, sorry, whom we've already met. The singer is called Tom Seven Strings, aka Tom of Seven, and Yellow Cloak is actually called Lemon Cloak. Yes, the other guy, the guy with a yellow cloak, they call him Lemon Cloak because of his color code. There are some theories as to who this guy actually is. It is not who he says he is. Something to do with the skulls and and lemons in his family sigil. I don't want to go too much into it because we will meet him again. So that's but if you're interested to research that, unless you already knew this, dear listener, feel free, see what you can dig up. But yeah, it's called Lemon Cloak or Lem because of his color code type thing. Okay, well, nice to meet you, goes Arya. My name is indeed Squab, and this here is the Bull, interjects Gendry, obviously not too keen to be known as Mutton Chop. So anyway, this Arya keeps changing names. This is a recurring what do they call it? Leitmotif. That her identity will keep changing. You know what? I've lost track of all the nicknames from it was Underfoot in Winterfell and Arya. Weasel, and none of these. All of those were really like just variations of like Weasel, Wheeze, Wizzy. I lost track. This is one of those things I'm not keeping track of because it's not the last of Arya's nicknames. So frankly, We'll see. So anyways, the three companions, let's not forget that these three companions might have addressed Arya, Gendry, and Hottie like children, but by now they have realized that whatever innocence they might have had, it's gone. It's gone, because if they escaped from the Bolton's clutches, they have seen what Bolton armies are capable of doing when they're in warfare mode. And this, they know that they escaped the clutches of Bolton's regiment, camp, well, Harrenhal, really. They know this because the Bolton sigil is still soon on their chests. At least we know this about Arya anyway. So the three companions introduced themselves as the King's Men. Hi, we're the King's Men. We're a rock band. And when they said the name King's Men, that was it as far as I was concerned. I'm sorry, but I'm a fan of that movie, the series of movies, almost all of them. I like the prequel and the original one. The second installment, Statesman, I wasn't so keen on, but I picture them played by Colin Firth, Ralph Fiennes. Is that how it's pronounced? Ralph Fiennes. Because, King's Men, that's it. I'm still picturing them. Every time I reread this chapter, I picture those three as King's Men. But what the name really means, the name King's Men, they explain, is that they're at the service of the late King Robert. At which point Gendry says something that in that universe, under regular circumstances, would probably cost him his head, because he goes, "What, that old drunken fool? He's dead." I don't think that sworn men to to a king and his legacy, his family, his dynasty, would tolerate that insult. No, but these guys, they take it all in good spirit. But it's also fascinating. It's funny because it's Gendry. Let's not forget who Gendry is, right? Because that old drunken fool is dead. You see, it's funny because he might have said that guy was my dad. Instead, he says dead. Huh? Maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know. But they could have, because I don't know if it's entirely a coincidence, because they could have had Martin could have had another character say that, but no, it was Gendry. Except that he doesn't know that King Robert was his dad. He just doesn't know it. But technically, they all have. I mean, with the exception of Hottie, both Arya and Gendry do have quote unquote royal blood in them. Interesting. So okay, small world, right? Hot Pie immediately blurts out that they want to reach River Run, and Tom reiterates, "All right, tell you what. First, let's go to this pub, okay? I keep telling you, just a couple of miles upstream. Grab a pint, bangers and mash, and then we'll take it from there, okay?" So they set out to the inn, not before picking those carrots and cabbages from the dead guy's garden, because you never know. And along the way, Tom 07 sings what is probably the number one hit in that season, the Bear and the Maiden Fair, with Hot Pie joining in because he happens to know the lyrics, much to Arya's astonishment, as she had no idea the dude had such a great singing voice. And they keep on going while Angai shouts and sings, and then he fires an arrow and hits a duck. So cabbages, carrots, a duck, they're sorted. Yeah, that's their meal sorted for them. So, and they finally reach the inn, which has a slate roof. Don't know why that took me aback, you know. So of all the descriptions of the inn, it's the slate roof. Maybe because I guess I kept seeing those images, maybe like in the HBO series as well, of King's Landing, with all those houses with red tile roofs, you know, kind of like, well, ancient Rome, and you can still see it in Italy, you know, to this day, in Tuscany, you know, those red roofs. And I think he even here in the book series, we might have seen a house or two with a thatched roof, sort of Tudor style. But I reckon this is the first time we see a stone house with grey slates on the roof, kind of like what they have in Scotland, I think. Traditional. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. I had just vague memories of the Argyll and Bute and the Isle of Island, the Isle of Isla. I seem to remember these houses. What's important is that this inn has its own dock to the river, where a boat is tied, you know, to a pole. By now, the first-time reader might already be thinking, okay, Riverlands, in by the river, a boat, wait a minute. Haven't we been here before? Things will become clear soon enough. So Arya suggests to Gendry that they might steal the boat and continue their journey upstream as they pass by the stables, whose floor, the stable's floor, is literally covered in horse manure. See, the evidence is really piling up here, much like the horse dung. We readers have been in this inn before. There's even a sign on the entrance, the picture of a kneeling man, kneeling king. Gendry, by the way, vetoes the idea of nicking the boat, which by now we know used to belong to Brienne. She was given this boat by Catelyn, I think, when she was transporting Jaime and Cleos just 2 chapters ago in Jaime II. So they enter, and we finally meet Wife, the character that we only heard described in that chapter. Described by the innkeep, who's not an innkeep. Remember him? And then and she's there in the middle of the common room, saying things like, "Don't just stand there and careful. I've just mopped the floor." You know, things that you'd expect her to say. And then she calls for husband, which really is what she calls the innkeep, who's not an innkeep. Same guy. Lem is faced with disappointment in the meantime because he hears that lemons are off the menu. Lem really wanted lemons. He really fancied that duck au citron, not duck à l'orange, duck au citron. But Wife just calls him, you moron. Where do you think? Where do you think you are? Where do you think this is? Dorne? You see, this over and over we get confirmation that lemons only grow in Dorne, in this continent anyway. Lemons and oranges, we will see later. Which is kind of relevant to crack open the setting of a certain childhood memory Daenerys keeps going back to. But that's another plot line. So everybody's sitting and they're all drinking ale because there's no more cider, the milk is sour, the river water is full of dead bodies, predictably. Just so we readers get an idea of the general situation around there. Yeah, it's an inn that's not quite an inn anymore. So and while Wife goes about cooking some rabbit, not the duck, and Arya keeps thinking of that boat, we can nick that boat, and there must be an opportunity for that. So the ale is served by that same 15-year-old garçon that we encountered in Jaime II. At which point Angai proposes a toast to the king. Lem is all like, yeah, mate, yeah, which one? There's so many kings out there that If they all burst in here right now, we'd be outnumbered. I mean, I'm paraphrasing all of this dialogue line, all these lines of dialogue. You might have realized, but yeah, that's the gist. And then the conversation moves on to horses. Arya keeps thinking about the boat. They keep thinking about the three horses. The three horses that Gendry is looking after in the stables right now because he wanted to stay behind. So you guys go ahead. You have your lunch, and then I'll join later. Meanwhile, someone has to has to stay with the horses. At which point, something very interesting is mentioned. Basically, that Brienne was right not to trust the innkeep, who's not an innkeep, although only we readers have all the pieces of the story, because the three horses that carried Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie are described as looking peculiar, apparently, by the the inn staff and the three guys, the three shall we just call them outright, the three bandits, the three outlaws. So those three horses look peculiar. Yeah. They might look peculiar, but still better than those other three horses that you, husband, gave away. Husband at that point goes, no, all right. First of all, I didn't give them away, but I sold them, for a good price. At which point we know, that those were the three dragons that Brienne paid you, right? And husband continues, and you guys were supposed to steal them back from those guys anyway. I sent them your way in the woods where you were supposed to ambush them. Lots of exposition there. Although it's not quite clear back in that chapter, Jaime 2, how these con men were actually communicating. Did they have like walkie-talkies? They're coming your way, over. Not sure about the logistics. Of course, Brienne, Jaime, and Cleos, as we know, never went anywhere near those guys in the woods because they chose the South Road. Smart. We also found out that Tom Seven Strings is a bit of a womanizer. This is just a theme, not a plot point, I guess, but it will be like a common leitmotif again. Because the reason why we didn't see wife, whose name is Sharna, we didn't see wife in Jaime 2 was because she, at the time, she was acting as midwife to a woman in a village nearby who might have gotten pregnant by Tom the Singer. This will become, I told you, like a recurrent theme. You will see it again. Tom charms ladies with a song. One thing leads to another, and voila, the deed is done. Oh, and look, we even get descriptions of these of the three people husband sold the horses to. A woman taller than a man. Okay, check. Some dude in chains. Check. Yeah, it's them, all right. By now, yeah. There's no doubt. And Arya keeps thinking of the boat. They could totally steal that boat, all right? After all, these are clearly outlaws, so judging by the topic of their conversation, so no guilt issues there. Not that guilt is actually an issue for Arya at this point of the story. What else happens here? Hot Pies schools them all on how to bake proper bread, because the bread has been served in the meantime, and apparently it's awful. So he just goes, no, you guys, no. You don't know how to bake bread. He goes into the whole kneading technique. That's my speciality, you see. I'm Hot Pie, I guess, baking bread. I guess you could say it's my bread and butter. So there. Tom expresses interest in those three horses again. Those peculiar horses, however peculiar they look, they could still come in handy. And so he slips Arya. I guess he's figured that she's the leader. Remember, Gendry's in the stables. There's only Hot Pie, who just keeps going on about bread, and Arya. And so he slips Arya not some actual money as a payment for those horses, but an IOU that says, I will pay you 3 dragons. Now, come on. A little IOU scribbled on a cocktail napkin, really? I bet the word dragons is even misspelled. You know, it's got like an inverted letter R, like like in Toys R Us, the Toys R Us sign. And yeah. So anyway, so but here let's linger on this moment for a bit, dear listener, because what George R. R. Martin does here is actually quite clever. Because I don't know if you remember, but back in Arya 6, I mean, I don't expect you to remember the exact chapter, but back in the Clash of Kings, Arya heard a farmer complain. This was one of the farmers captured and taken to Harrenhal by, you know, Clegane's men. And he complains that the Red Priest had been foraging in the land, including this said farmer's, property, farm. And he has taken his chickens and whatnot and paid him with a paper note. Aha. Yeah. That would be, and I think someone else in the same book tells the story. The Red Priest, Thoros of Myr, went around, taking stuff in exchange for paper notes that said, I owe you this much. When the war is over, you'll get paid. And the farmer was, of course, complaining. What am I supposed to do with this? Eat this cocktail napkin? I don't even know what it says. but here's the connection. If could these outlaws be somehow connected with Thoros of Myr, and therefore Beric Dondarrion in association? If that's their modus operandi. This band of brothers, we will call them that from now on, that was dispatched to the Riverlands by Eddard Stark back in Game of Thrones to bring Sir Gregor Clegane back to justice for the crime of breaking the king's peace. Anyway, so Arya says exactly what you'd expect her to say. That paper's no good. A piece of paper certainly didn't save her father Eddard. That's for sure. That famous last will dictated by Robert. At which point, Tom goes, yeah, but no, okay, yeah, but no, but listen, yeah. I give you my word as a king's man. When the war is over, I'll totally repay you. Which, it's probably not the best thing to tell Arya, considering that she's learned not to be so fond of king's men. If you know what I mean. The Hound is a king's man, as far as she knows, and we know what Arya reproaches the Hound for. She thinks he's still a king's man because she doesn't know that he deserted. Amory Lorch is certainly a king's man. And he murdered Yoren, and would have murdered her and her friends too. So, Kingsman, I spit on Kingsman, and I don't much care for paper notes either. So, but whether she likes it or not, just one more sip of coffee. Like a proper radio DJ. So whether she likes it or not, Arya realizes that whether she likes it or not, these guys are going to take the horses regardless of what she says. And she simply goes, all right, I'll tell you what, you get the horses, we get the boat. Except we don't know how to operate it, so you're going to have to kind of like give us a crash crash course. Uh, so, oh, isn't that adorable? The little girl looks like a boy. Everybody bursts out laughing. Sharna comes out of the kitchens and she has a good laugh. And the bus boy joins in and he has a good laugh. I don't know why we're laughing, but it's good to join in. At which point Gendry bursts in, all panicky like, and goes, "Riders! Riders, coming our way." It all happens so fast, as it does in under these circumstances. Arya and Hot Pie get ready for fight, and this is when Arya gives Lemon Cloak a permanent identifying mark on his face, because she smashes her nose with a tankard of ale. See, Lem had grabbed her from behind, sort of twisting her arm, trying to keep her steady. I guess that was the wrong, approach to simply. If he just wanted to simply tell her, "Look, these are friends. I know who's coming. Don't worry about it." But that was totally not the right approach, because so she reached for the tankard and smashed it on Lem's cloak, Lemon, whatever his name is, on his face. And as far as I remember, Lem's nose will never heal, because every time we encounter him, I hope that's not a major spoiler, he doesn't die right away, okay? Lem doesn't. And every time we encounter him in future chapters, he's always described with a messed up nose. So anyway, at that point, the riders enter the inn, and they're a bit picturesque. There's a Taroshi with a green beard, a pair of crossbowmen helping a wounded man between them, a one-eyed man in a rusty pot helm, an archer with a head of stiff yellow hair shouting for ale, a spearman in a lion-crested helm, an older man with a limp, a Braavosi sellsword, and Harwin from Winterfell, whose father was Ned's Eddard Stark's master of horses. The same Harwin who used to ride Arya's pony round the yard. She remembers. See, Harwin was one of the Winterfell men who came to King's Landing with Arya, with the whole caravan, the whole, Stark's company, caravan. And he had known Arya all her life, basically. And he was one of the men embedded in Beric Dondarrion's company, sent by Ned Stark to the Riverlands to bring Gregor Clegane to justice. See, what did I tell you? Yeah. Along with Thoros of Myr. Myr means peace, by the way, in lots of Slavonic languages. True story. And it all fits, see? It all perfectly fits. Not only that, but at that point, Arya can't help it anymore, and she just lets it all go. No more disguises. This is Harwin. Yeah, I can be me, myself, and I, finally. Because this is one of my dad's trusty men. It's me, Harwin, Arya. At first, Harwin doesn't even recognize her. He goes, "Who are you?" "Who are you?" Like Philomena Clunk. "Hello, who are you?" Who are you with the Bolton sigil on your chest? Are you on the payroll of the leech guy? It takes a while for Harwin to connect, but eventually he does. "Oh my God, Arya!" So Lem is still massaging his messed up nose, not for the last time, and so he just has to interject. "Yeah, well, who is it that did my nose? Who did I get my nose smashed by? Who is this?" At which point Harwin just announces, "Why this? Look, well, here's the thing. We were sent on a mission by the King's Hand, right?" "Yeah. So? Well, this is his daughter." Ta-da! Big reveal. And on this soap opera-like sort of revelation, the chapter ends. And what a chapter it was. Lots and lots and lots of connections with previous chapters. That's what I like these books for, really. Fabuloso. Well, as for you and I, dear listener, well, this has been a pleasure for me. I hope it's been a pleasure for you too. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like this kind of content, don't feel free to do the things that people do under these circumstances, and I look forward to talking to you again, and hopefully reading rather, some comments from you as well. If you have any insights, did I miss anything at all? Hopefully this will become a two-way sort of dialogue, as dialogues often are. And until next time, all the best. Ciao.